Hi, my name is Georg Link. I'm Director of Sales at Biturgia, co-founder of the Chaos Project, and lead of the Community Advisory Group at IEEE SA Open. I am going to speak with you today about leaderboards and how we use them to celebrate contributors and incentivize good community citizenship. So let's dive into leaderboards, metrics, and best practices. What are leaderboards? Per Merriam-Webster's dictionary, it is a large board for displaying the ranking of the leaders in a competitive event, like we see here for a golf event. We also use leaderboards for ranking countries, for example, here in the World Happiness Report, or ranking companies in the Fortune 500 list, or ranking games by revenue, or ranking people in a team, or ranking open source projects based on their stars on GitHub. The type of leaderboards that I want to speak with you about is about ranking contributors to open source projects. When you go to GitHub Insights, you find a list of contributors based on how many commits they have made to an open source project. This is the kind of leaderboard that I mean, because it gives us insights to how an open source project is being run, who is active in it, what people are behind it. We also see leaderboards, for example, in the Drupal marketplace, where companies that are more active in the Drupal community get a more prominent place on this marketplace based on a transparent algorithm that the Drupal community has decided on. So why does leaderboards, why do they work? Let's dive into the theory. We implement leaderboards because they provide instant feedback to contributors. They create a sense of community, seeing who else is being active, and it allows us to recognize who those contributors are and rewarding their activities. Leaderboards also create a sense of competition and incentivize more activity as people are trying to reach the next level up. How they work, if we dive into the theory, self-determination theory says that they provide, if done correctly, they provide us, they satisfy the need for competence. We can see the work that we're doing has an impact. They provide autonomy because we can choose our own way of reaching the next level. We can have social relatedness as we talk with others. To dive more into this, the theory of motivation shows that as we set our own goals, and ranking higher in a leaderboard is a goal that we can set ourselves, we can be more motivated to do stuff. Social comparison theory also shows us that we naturally rank each other and compare our own work with that of others, and gives us an understanding of how well we are doing. Because if we just know our own abilities, then we don't know, is this good, is this bad? So we like to compare ourselves to others. It's a normal thing. If done poorly, leaderboards lead to motivational issues. So beware. If we use leaderboards for the whole project, and now we have less skilled and highly skilled people in the same leaderboard, then there may be demotivation on both ends, because it seems like, well, why am I trying to get up? I don't have the time to be in open source that much. Or those people who are really active, they're doing it for their work. For them, it's like, I'm up here anyway, so what gives? So we need to talk about how leaderboards actually rank people. This is done usually by a score. Ideally, the score is showing progress towards some form of success measure, and we need to design it in a way where we are very cautious and mindful about what actually counts. Naturally, there is a bias towards measurable things, so that is not always the best for the community. Like here in the picture, if we measure all sandwiches by how thick they are, we miss the point of how delicious they actually taste or how healthy the ingredients are. So those are harder to measure things that we might want to consider when we have a leaderboard for our community. So how is the score actually calculated? Let's dive into an excursion on metrics. When we talk about metrics, it's a method of measuring something or the results obtained from this measuring. And we take project data and transform it through this method into metrics. The project data in open source is trace data. Because we are transparent and we work in the open, there is accidentally created Git logs and mailing list archives that we can look at. Careful, it does contain names and emails, so beware of GDPR and other laws. Once we identify where the community is, we can find this data in the wikis, discourse, GitHub, wherever we are active. Now we find the data, we need to get the data, enrich it, and make it useful. Getting the data is almost the easiest step. There's a Git log, we have the APIs. The challenge is if any of those changes, if you use an open source tool that already other people are updating as these data sources change, you're good to go. If you then want to make that data useful, you need to enrich it. You need to unify it. God forbid someone uses a different way of writing month, day, year, and they use day, month, year, whatever. You need to unify that data, make it useful. Important for leaderboards is you need to identify who the people are. And if someone uses multiple email addresses to contribute to your project, then you need to say, hey, this is actually the same person. Or across different platforms, there may be different usernames. So merging identities is important. And then the last step is actually calculating the score that will be on our leaderboard. There are other ways to make this data useful. We are going with leaderboards, so I'm gonna skip over this. There are open source solutions already available that you can use to build your own leaderboards. You have Cauldron, Grimoire, Augur, Apache Kibble, and CNCF DevStat, Dev Analytics. They are readily available and the most widely used open source tools for metrics in communities. In the Chaos project, we have developed some best practices around what to do with analytics and metrics. To give you a little background, Chaos is short for Community Health Analytics open source software. It's a Linux Foundation project that we started 4 years ago. And our focus was on creating analytics and metrics to help define community health. Everyone was talking about, hey, we need to understand the health of our open source communities, but there was no consistent way of doing this because everyone was speaking a different language. We are now standardizing this with standard tools and standard metrics. Some things we have already learned is that when you start looking at open source communities, go with a goal question metric approach. You want to know what you're looking for, what you're looking to improve before you look at the data, because there's so much data and you easily fall into the trap of looking at what is there rather than what you need to know. You want to tell a story with the data, make the data work for you, and evaluate your metric strategy regularly because the community changes and you need to know other things over time. And you want to minimize the gaming of metrics or use it purposely in leaderboards. But start small, don't get overwhelmed. It's better to get off zero and get started. Now, going to leaderboards, there are also some best practices. You want to be transparent about the scoring algorithm. You want your contributors to know exactly what they can do to rise in the ranks. But you want to also revise the algorithm based on the feedback that you get. You want the leaderboard to always reflect the most recent activities, so automate its updating. To go with the motivation theory, make sure that you have leaderboards about different things or different leaderboards in your community to incentivize different groups of people that are relatable. You want to, of course, recognize the diverse set of contributions that people make. Don't get yourself pigeonholed with just looking at commits, for example. It also helps to show individual contributors where they are, who's the next one up, so they know how far they need to go, and it motivates them to move up the ladder. That rounds up our talk. We talked about leaderboards, metrics, and best practices. And I am looking forward to having a conversation with you, answering any questions that you have, or dive into deeper conversation about metrics, analytics, and leaderboards.